You say when, Paul?
When?
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the reflections on the 12 steps. Um, this is just a friendly announcement. This is not an AA meeting. This is just one member's view on the exact nature of the wrongs as described on page 64 of the big book and the solutions contained within. This is not an all-share meeting, though shares there will be, but actually a question and answer meeting with Paul. So Paul, last week, or I guess last time, we were on page 68
Yes.
at the second paragraph. Perhaps there is a better way.
Well, let's go over that first one, the one above again.
Yeah. Do you want
Oh,
me to read it or you?
you can read it and then we'll go off over it.
Okay, it says, we reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us?
Just stop there for a second.
Yeah.
That's obviously it's the analysis of recovery that fear is an effect of self-reliance. Yeah. Yeah. Not fear as the emotion, but fear as that for some people chronically a sense of dis-ease or agitation or anxiety. That fear that's is like the claiming of the emotion fear by the mental state, then triggering it or playing it with anxiety. They say fear is not the cause of things, it's actually an effect of self-reliance. So I think that's a very big point. Now, what is self-reliance? Well, reliance, someone can look at the definition. Hey, Kathy, how about that? What's reliance? In Cleveland. Can you see give us a definition of that?
Well, you want me to look up an official one?
Yeah, yeah, reliance.
It means dependence on or trust in someone or something.
There you go. Yes, so reliance on or depending or trust in something. And this something is other than us. That's the whole point. The something we're relying on is other than us. Yes? Self does not mean us, it means self. Reliance means exactly what Kathy says. So we are the one that's relying on self. Whatever we may be is up to experience, really, a revelation. But self is surely not us. Yeah. We have not been defeated by me as long, in other words, you have not defeated you, but self has defeated us. Yeah. And how has it? Why are we in so much fear today? Because we're depending and trusting something that's not trustworthy, obviously. Yeah. One of the main things when I got whacked with the sobriety was that I was not managerial quality. Yeah. Now I saw over time that I was not that's not managerial quality. And I believed humbly our role in this whole event is to be uh, moved or driven or led by something. Yeah. And that something in this case has not been us, this idea of self. And we're hoping to change that management team into the idea of a higher power. Yes. So, because we're going to be directed, we're going to be used, we're going to be managed. Yeah, but what is it that's doing it is what's going to produce the effects in our life. And they're explaining that self-reliance is the root of fear. Relying on something that's not reliable will constantly promote an anxiety concerning results and outcomes and everything else. Yeah. Now we have tried to change everything but that. Yeah. We have tried to get the self better or whatever. We've tried to, but in fact, if you just see what you're not in this case, which is self, the possibility of being free from it becomes available. Because why you don't have that possibility is you're trying to be free as it. It's completely explained by the recognition. Yeah. I had it happen with me. I was sitting there another day sober. I don't know, maybe between 4 or 7 years of sobriety. I was looking at how it works and the instructions about the inventory process. And I read on page 64, famous sentence, being convinced, which means believe with certainty. That's one of the definitions. So being convinced. So I was in the state of being convinced, reading about what has defeated me, which was this idea of self. So being convinced self manifested in various ways. Where does it come into our manifestations? I just don't see how we've ended up where we've ended up. If you read the book without bias, it basically says self has defeated us through its manifestations in our life. That's it. That's the statement. If you're convinced of that, we're going to look at its common manifestations, it meaning selves. So we do an inventory on the common manifestations in our life when we have been infested or taken over by this foreign nature of self. Yeah. Because we're going to know the tree by its fruits. We're going to look at resentment and fear and harms done to others in the pursuit of what we want, a selfishness, self-centeredness, and the self-seeking and frightened. And we're going to look at it from a new basis, which is it's not us. Yes? Yeah. To me, that's the possibility of being free. We have spent a lot of time trying to be free as this idea of self. Obviously, Jesus. How about a novel approach, which is being free from it, not as it or for it or through it or waiting for it to say that you can be free as long as you fulfill all these requirements, and those requirements change very whimsically, and therefore so now part of the bondage is the idea or the desire to be free. It uses that to bind you to this idea of self. Yeah. And it does it unbeknownst to the host, which is why we're attempting to share this in a repetitive manner year after year. Because if that's what it takes, if it takes repetition in time, we're willing and able and wanting to do that. Just keep breaking the imaginary dam that you believe is holding back all the water. Just break the imaginary dam. Yes, so. And you'll see it. You'll hear people who have been taken very far down that road, which is they hate themselves. This is how they start their day. I hate me. Yeah. I am my own worst enemy. That is insane. That is completely insane to start it. That is like you're being eclipsed by a giant 8 ball. You just can't, you're not, it's just crazy, I feel. And I humbly believe a simple understanding with the grace that is provided in this program, you will break through that imaginary dam and you will start experiencing freedom from self, not trying to experience freedom as self. We tried that already. It didn't work. I gave up every other freedom so self could be free for 5 minutes shooting coke. I did. I lived in fucking hole in the wall hotels just for that rush of putting a needle in my arm to get a temporary relief from this bondage. And it was quite temporary. Yeah. Uh. So, yes. All right, honey. Sorry, I jumped in there. This to me is one of the most important parts of the book because they're very clearly on 64 that something foreign to us has defeated us. And second, they're very clear that we're relying on it and it's unreliable. And this is what's promoting all our anxiety. Two giant whacks in these first few pages, 64 to 68. They have now told you that which the nature of what has defeated to you is foreign to you. Yes. And how it has provoked so much anxiety and fear in us is in reliance on it. Yeah. And then they talk about it extensively on page 53 or 54 in We Agnostics, that faith in the God of reason, abject faith, which is spiritless servility, right up there with the pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. We are in a state of spiritless servility in faith in the thoughts. The faith in the thoughts provoke a spiritless servility in us. Unbelievable.
And it says right there, self-reliance failed us.
Yes.
You know, so it's pointing out that we're different, or that
Exactly.
yeah.
Us is not what we're relying on. We're relying on self.
Mhm.
Us is what relies. What it's going to rely on, yeah, has two possibilities in recovery. Either you're going to rely on self or you're going to rely on the infinite. That's it. It's not like 20 branch off roads. It's two basic roads. You are what's going to rely on something. You are not which is relied upon. You are the relying. We have been relying on something that's not reliable. It's that simple. It's like the rose bush that hasn't bloomed. It's not because it can't bloom. It's been in too small of a pot with no good soil, not much water, and no sun. Yeah. So therefore, its ability to be a rose bush has been severely stunted. Yes. Exactly. We are going to rely on something. We are. We have outside needs that are beyond our control. They are, aren't they? You have a need to get something. You get there, it costs too much money. It's now outside of your control. You can't get it. Yes? So what do you rely on at that moment? What? Usually the head. What do you meet on Tuesday? You never meet Tuesday, you meet the thoughts in Tuesday. And some of us have, knowing it or not, have been in a great reliance on the thoughts to lead us through a Tuesday. But the thoughts only can see yesterday and tomorrow. They're blind to this moment. We have been led by a blind guide, yes? And we've on a certain level knew it, and we've just been trying to cope with it by getting loaded. Yes? Or acting out in some way or another. Yeah. So let's admit we're going to rely on something. Yeah. What is it that we're relying on is what's truly important. Yes. You want to debate reliance, But basically, in life, you're relying on something. Yeah. What is it? And tell the truth about it. Have you been relying on the God of reason? And have you been abjectly faithful? In other words, your faithfulness has been a spiritless servility to the God of reason. Yes, it feels like that was the case. Now, if you follow these suggestions and do what we do, you're going to have an awakening to all of this, which is the point of the steps. Yeah. And you're going to wake up to another possibility, the spirit, let's say. And now you've made a decision to turn your will and life over to the care of this spirit. Yes? You've now done the work to recover, to reveal what has defeated you, which is self. Yeah. And now that which you couldn't stop, meaning the defeat of self, you're lifted out of by the higher power. Yes. And then they describe the effects of that being lifted out of this bondage of self, on and on and on and on and on. Then we have simple ways to maintain it. And then let's take the agenda, which is the 12th step. Be open to help other people to achieve sobriety and practice these principles of your life in all your affairs. And if you can't, limit your affairs until you can. Yeah, there you go. Perhaps there is a better way. Now you're in the better way. You're not before the better way. You're in the better way. You're in the habit of being sober. There you go. Day in, day out. Tons of problems come and go, but the problem doesn't overshadow any of it. I never think of drinking and using as a solution, for sure. Now that's not effort. I was brought to that. I have been convinced of many things. And one thing I've been convinced of is I'm not self. Whatever the fuck it is, I'm not it. Yeah? If that which is talking is also listening to itself, that's a fucking weird situation. I believe I'm sort of the listener, and I've heard this shit talk on and on and on and on and on. But some people rely on me, yes, and you can be in reliance on something else while others rely on you. Yeah, yes, you can. You can direct hundreds of people at a job and still be directed by the higher power. Yeah, it's your seat assignment, basically. So, yeah, yeah. We have commitments. That's to build a reliance. Yeah. So the group can rely on you to open up the meeting on Tuesday at 7. Yeah. And then you learn how to face life successfully. You become reliable to some extent. Yeah. To the demands and the responsibilities of your life here. All the while resting the deep reliance on a higher power. There you go. All right, so this to me is very, very important. Great definition of reliance. See, they never can describe what's really relying. They're describing on what can be relied on. Yes? Because we are the activeness of living. Yeah. It's difficult to describe us, that which needs to rely on, but it can describe what can be relied on. And they're basic two options, which is your old employer, the God of reason, faith in the thoughts and the perceptions and the takes that it presented, and now the higher power. Yeah. Where maybe you're going to be guided through thought, not by thought. Yes. Yeah. 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 Comes to that. So what camp are you in, really? And when you say you're in the other camp, that thing that says that is foreign to you. Yeah. I think we are of spirit. I do not think we're in spirit. I think we're of it. I think that's our nature. And I do not believe self-natures is our nature. I think it's foreign to us. Yeah. I think it's made up in the mental, supported by the mental, reinforced by the mental. and will die with the mental when the body passes away. I do believe the spirit has a different nature. I don't think it came and started. I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's always available at all times, right where you are, with no requirement necessary to meet it. I believe it has a complete different nature than we can imagine or comprehend or understand. But I don't believe not being able to comprehend stops your reliance on it. Actually, I think it furthers the reliance on it. Yeah, something you cannot understand may obviously prove to be the most reliable. Because what you understand is everything fucking fails you, usually. So this is a new understanding. Yeah, and you come to believe, literally, you do. That something can do for you what you can't do for yourself. Incredible. And do it well also. Yeah, so I'm just so stoked to be on the other side. Yeah. I'm so fortunate that sobriety is a habit. It's as if yeah. It's as if the problem doesn't exist as us and for us. It's just like that. And I have never met a solution here that is that much of a solution as this program of recovery. Yeah. To take the problem and have it appear not to exist anymore is unbelievable high quality solution to me. Super high quality. Yeah. What are you gonna wrestle with something that doesn't exist? Obviously not. You can fight, keep up that giant battalion of security guards watching for something that doesn't exist? No. Your invulnerability won't be a giant fortified fortress. It'll be a recognition of what is and what ain't. Yeah, that's going to be your invulnerability. Well, will it be like that tomorrow? You'll see. But if it's like this today, the most appropriate response is an ease and comfort. If you're going to fall off the cliff tomorrow, you'll be taken care of falling off the cliff. Right now, you're not. Yeah. Do you have the ability to enjoy this moment, unclouded by yesterday and tomorrow? Yeah. And if you don't, what's causing you not to? Is it you or is it something foreign to you? If fear is reigning supreme, what's the core of that? Your circumstances, the story may have it to be that way, but in the diagnosis of recovery from the big book, it's self-reliance. Yeah, that's what it says. It didn't describe the 800 baffling, no way out scenarios alcoholics can find themselves in. That's why you're in so much fear today. No, it says, isn't it because self-reliance has failed us? Yeah. I don't know. What are you going to get into the semantics? How are you going to? It's pretty simple English. Self-reliance has failed us. That's why we are in so much fear today. There you go. Thanks, Doc. Yeah. What do you prescribe? Losing interest in self. Great. But before you leave, remember, self cannot lose interest in self. Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, yeah. There you go. Losing interest in self. The reliance on self gets broken. You start relying on something that's reliable. And now that bankrupt rose bush starts blooming. Yes? It wasn't the bush's problem. It was what it was relying on. Small pot, no soil, no water, no sun. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it wonderful when you get a diagnosis that actually is correct because it produces relief? That's incredible, isn't it? All the stories of why this didn't go the way I thought it should go is explained in this book. Yeah. We've been relying on something unreliable, and there you got it. And knowing that there's an irritability, restlessness, and discontent, and not seeing the way out of it, we sort of drink ourselves out of it, or you get loaded to get out of it. Yeah. And we end up being a type of person that uh, you know, to will wait for any consequence tomorrow not to feel uncomfortable today. Yeah. You just want to feel better, so you do something, and then it produces effects that bring you misfortune, and you feel you don't deserve, and then you start drinking at shit, and there you go. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Let's keep reading, Kathy, if you like, but that to me is very, very important.
Yeah. Okay. So self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God.
All right, just stop there. There you go. We're all on that basis. I don't care if your head says it doesn't think so. We're all on the basis. If you're sober today and you're here, you're on a new basis, like it or not. That new basis contains what? Trusting and relying upon, let's say, spirit. There you go. What would that mean in action? Not trusting and not relying on self. That's what it means. You can look at it either way, relying and trusting on the higher power, or not relying and not trusting self. There you go. So what do you tell the truth about? First, you tell the truth about the trust that was put into self. And look at what it produced. And now that's a motivating factor that you don't want your faith to be put into self, but you're powerless in the condition you find yourself. So we make a decision to ask something to do for us what we can't do for ourselves, and to move our faith from self and put it into the spirit. There you go. And the program is that's one of its many functions, is to allow the faith that you have been putting into self to be taken out of that and put into the higher power. Old employer, new employer. Yes. First, we admit our powerlessness. We have been co-opted and taken over by something that has weakened us, and the host can't fight the parasite on its own because it believes it's the parasite. It's insane, but that's the case. Now we do simple program, follow simple suggestions, and that dominance or tyranny of self gets broken, and another power comes in and becomes the new basis of our life, which is we are now trusting the higher power instead of finite self. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. It's simple. It's a simple breakdown. I would tell the truth about self more than trying to tell the truth about spirit. Why not just find out the truth about spirit? Yeah, but tell the truth about self. It's not you. Yeah. You were driven to do tons of shit, and it has you bound to being the doer of that shit. So you are jailed, or you have a weird umbilical cord that comes out of the past and holds you hostage in this moment. Yeah? You can't cut the umbilical cord, but something can. And you ask that something to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Now you're freed from the bondage of self. You're living life from a new basis. And problems arise, but the problem doesn't eclipse every fucking thing. That has been solved. Yes. The problem does not exist for you anymore. There you go. What more do you want? Literally. Do you believe you're held by the past, by the idea that you were the doer of all those actions that you were driven to do while under the influence? Do you believe the head uses that as a giant bank account, goes back there any time to convict you once again of being a doer of terrible fucking shit that you should never have done, and that you have to perform some kind of mea culpa? Yeah. And then it pulls it up again a day or two later. And then you're bound by the idea of being the doer of shit you had absolutely nothing to do with other than the transportation of that event. Yes. You and I have been taken over by the same thing. I can recognize its driving through Matthew, and Matthew can recognize its driving through Paul, because we've been both driven by the same fucking thing. Yes. There has not been 8 billion different defeats. There's been one defeat shared by 8 billion. Yes. Very similar to what it was like in the 30s, the 40s, before. I remember one day we have a talk at a church, and they had a huge Bible and a podium, and you'd walk by it to the room where we had the meeting. And one day I stopped, and it was on a page, a psalm from the Old Testament. And in that psalm, they were bitching about winos. It was incredible. What to do with these fuckers, really? There was really no solution to this situation. And then it was hatched and given birth to in the 30s. Fantastic. Yeah. Very clear description of what has defeated us. But somehow or another, we've gotten confused. We take its manifestations as our manifestations, which continues the defeat, even in the program. So, yep. You want to keep reading, or just go share or something? Oh, keep reading. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So let's see. We're trusting, relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us and humbly rely on Him, does He enable us to match calamity with serenity.
It's traveling lighter, right? Yeah.
We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. Instead, we let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. We ask Him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what He would have us be. At once, we commence to outgrow fear.
Wow. That's an interesting use of words, to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be, not what he would have us do or have, but be. That's pretty cool, eh? Yeah. Now, does it sound like you're the doer when it says, instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do? So now this is clear. A lot of people have the spirit of this. And when they share, you can hear it. They're grateful for something doing for them what they cannot do for themselves. They give all credit to the power and AA and stuff like that. Why is that not clear about the old employer and the lower power that did through us what we would never have done by ourselves? Really? Yes? Something did through us what we would never have done by ourselves. Where's the accountability to that? Yeah. Don't you see there's a need to recognize the old employer and and the new employer? They share certain things. They're employing us. Yeah. So we have been used by two employers. Yeah, we sing all the gratitude and glory of the new employer, but we seem to take ourselves responsible for all the old employer's directions. I see this not as a weird phenomena. I feel this is manufactured by the mental activity. I believe the parasite hides itself in the host and has the host taking itself to be the doer of what the parasite drove us to do completely. And I feel it's time that that's broken and it doesn't keep on living underneath the current of recovery as communities. So sick of it, really. Everyone falls right into very easily. Most people fall into gratitude pretty easily. But I cannot. So something is doing for me what I could not do for myself. Something did through me what I would not have done by myself in the past. Where is that being applied? We're walking around as if we were the doer of shit that we were driven to do. That is bondage of self. And it's a pretty big handcuff called the past. Yeah. And if the head is using the past to project the future, now you're bound in time, by time, to self. Incredible. We just pound away every time, just come pound away at it because it's not the thickness of the dam, it's the reluctance in us. The parasite has us quite a lot. Do you really believe you chose to do a lot of the shit you were driven to do while under the influence? You really believe that? I came up with some very imaginative fucking things to do that I had no idea of at all until they happened through me. None whatsoever. Had no idea I could possibly do that. And yet it proved itself over and over again. And I was fucking surprised about what I did. Even though I was held as the doer, I was surprised of how low I could go. Yeah. So it doesn't take much to break an imaginary wall. Yeah. You just have to feel it and you'll see that it's imaginary. We don't tend to feel it. We just know shit. And the head feeds us a lot of shit that we think we know that we're missing the whole point of. Yes? Yes. Yeah. How many of us have ended up just like everyone else like us? Yeah. How many? How many how many cars, how many millions of cars can park in the same three parking spaces, institution, jails, and death, without realizing there are a fleet of cars being driven by the same driver? I mean, how much? How can you hold on to that uniqueness? Yeah, when the thoughts are the same running through your head as they are mine. The only weirdness is that some of them, they're called yours and you, and they're called mine and me. But they're like the source is lake alcoholism, lake alcoholism. And all the water that's starting through both of us is infected with alcoholism. Yes. Ah, I'm selling a unique spring water. That spring has sprung a long time ago. It's fucking dead. There's no watering in that water. So yeah, here we are. Anyone likes to share or questions or anything?
I put that in the chat. Anybody have any questions? Can I just say I've gotten a lot of freedom from understanding that the thoughts aren't mine, and I think of it like, every thought in the world that can be thunk is out there in the ether, and they float through my head like clouds. But some of them I grab onto and I claim them and call them mine. And then that gives them power, power to keep me, upset about what something, or in pain. But when I can let go of that they're not mine,
Yes.
it helps. I've gotten a lot of freedom from that.
Yeah.
And Olivia has her hand up, but
And then you get in the habit of being so sober, so you get in the habit of letting go of the thoughts. It's not even an action anymore. There's a basic letting go of them before they even try to arrive. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Olivia.
Olivia, please.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks so much, Paul. Okay, so as you were talking about, um, like being guided through thought by our higher power versus being guided by thought, like
Yes.
the self, that made me think immediately of like today's daily reflection, which we reacted more strongly to frustrations than normal people. So I kind of like equated reacting to being guided by thought
Yes.
versus being guided through thought. And like that's really apt for me right now because yesterday, like I felt anger, which to me, like that's me, Olivia, but I can either react or respond to it. I can react and be guided by thought, or I can respond and be guided by my higher power through thought. So that's just how I'm like thinking about it right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Yes. See, you're going in the right direction, and then you get more comfortable, or you see you can add a mile or two if you lean this way or that way. But you're moving in in a clear direction. That's the most important thing. And then you find little ways to speed it up or become more comfortable. Yes, mostly the thoughts have been used to guide us. Yeah. And the meaning to the thoughts was through the my. See, the my was the thoughts were truly coming from this idea of self. So they were its thoughts. So it would say my thoughts because self is talking. Yeah. And it's actually describing its truthfulness. It's saying, these are my thoughts. The problem with us is that when we're hearing it, we think they're our thoughts. Yeah. So we hear the presentation of the head's life as us, yeah, and then we adopt it as us. And then sometimes, and very rarely does it even fit closely to us. Yeah. So we're constantly squeezing ourselves into something else's idea. It's just insane. Yeah. So when it says, I'm afraid, it is afraid. But when people hear it say, I'm afraid, they think it's, I'm afraid. Yeah. So we're in the act of being identified as self. So the head is playing a narration of life from self. Yeah. So a lot of what we're hearing presented through thoughts and conversation up there is self talking about self. Yeah. Somehow, as the listening of it, we've taken ourselves to be the object that's being talked about. Yeah. And this is to me the bondage, because now the old song, go your own way, we're going by its way. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a beautiful way of seeing it, of while it keeps constantly presenting its way and going, you're going through it, not getting moved by it. Yes, that to me is traveling lighter. To believe it's going to stop narrating life, I think, is a mistake. That's not what I saw over time. I saw there's a loss of interest in its narration, which makes it easier to live through the thoughts, not by the thoughts. Yes? Yeah, yeah. And I think traveling lighter begets more traveling lighter. It's just the way it works. Yeah. So there's a momentum that gets built up, that things you wouldn't be able to pass through before, you pass through easier. Yes, for sure. Yeah. And then what's incredible, this is the incredibleness of the intellect of whatever is of the higher power. It will take that narration and turn it out from CNN into a comedy show. I mean, it gets a huge amount of value of that you would have just thrown away. It doesn't throw it away. It just turns it into a comedy routine. It's incredible. I mean, there's nothing that when it sees it can't be put to good use. That's how I feel. And the way I used to look at life, it was either this or that. It was very blindly one or another. The way I see things now is much more inclusive, much more. And there's value everywhere. There's value in the bondage. The past bondage becomes just brings a lot of humor, because it lives as if you're handcuffed while you're free. Yeah. Yeah. It still keeps talking to you as a captive that it doesn't have control over anymore. It's pretty good. Yeah. And
We have another hand up.
a lot of shit stops also. The thoughts they tumble down, but they don't increase in momentum. Where before they used to tumble down and the snowball would turn into an avalanche. Basically now they tumble down, but they don't gain momentum. Their impact doesn't, they don't have an impact anymore, because the my, oh man, when the my is seen before the thought, it's awesome, because the thoughts really, they're like a glove. The hand that punches you is the my, really, the my. All right, sorry. Let's go to Robbie. Robbie Ray.
Yeah, hi. I had an aha moment recently after being in recovery and then in therapy. They were talking about there's the triangle of thoughts and emotions and reactions. And it made me think the more I can be the observer of my thoughts, the less there'll be emotions that I need to be the observer of too. See, I didn't know that for a long time, that I needed to also observe my emotions. They had explained it to me like, if you cut open a lemon, I'm sure you probably heard this before, cut a lemon in half and then imagine that you bite into that lemon, the chemicals in your body already make your mouth, your jaw tighten. So if I can notice that even the chemicals that are happening in my body because of my thoughts are things to observe so that I don't act in those things, that the mind is powerful, that it even does chemicals that you can even think of a lemon and your jaw tightens, and if I can be aware of all of that, that's not controlling me, and I can step back from all of that, then my thoughts, behaviors to actions, my actions change because I'm observing them. Does that make sense? I'm trying to explain something that
Yeah, yes, it makes sense, but I wouldn't don't let it become self-knowledge. It's not going to avail you much. Just
that makes
stay in the outmatchedness. Yeah.
what do you mean outmatchedness?
The outmatchedness is when there's a description of what has defeated you, knowing that, and then trying to counter it with another behavior, a lot of times is self-managing. Yes?
Yeah, good point.
So it's the problem trying to get out of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks.
Knowledge. Because basically what you described you need to do as the observer, you're basically going to fail tons of times during the day.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, it doesn't suck in a way because you'll see that there was a subtle reliance on that which you don't need to rely on again.
Um,
So it basically thinks, okay, now that I have the equation of emotion, thought, I'm going to reign supreme over that. That's not going to work, I don't feel.
mhm. No
That's,
wonder.
that's against self-reliance, yes?
Okay, thank you. Good
That's
point.
just my opinion, yeah.
I
Yeah.
like your opinion.
Yeah, that's all. Because this is really what you see, you're not moved to really change. You admit you're under the guidance of something else, and it will do the changing or not. Yes? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't believe this is getting us ready to manage ourselves. I believe it's a reliance on a higher power life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I was just thinking of all the stories and more about alcoholism that prove how self-knowledge does nothing for it.
Yes, it can be a good, it's a good thing to recognize something, uh, but to doing something about it, I would question. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yes, because part of uh, the problem is it taking on producing the solution. Yes, it's another, yeah. So self-knowledge avails us nothing, but knowledge of self is very valuable. So I just hear what's going. I see the defeat. I don't try to stop it anymore. I just I've surrendered to that situation, to something greater than the situation. Yeah, yeah, and I rely on that. Yeah, I like to understand things to share it with people. But really, what's going to give any oomph to the understanding is that which we can't understand, which is the higher power. Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, yeah. Hmm. See, people, I see the value, I see the movement. We're going to try to help people become more aware of how we're defeated. Yeah, but a lot of times the head now takes on the role of I'm going to stop the defeat. Yes, which is what? But self-reliance. Yeah, and then it will fail us once again. And that's its value, literally. We feel like if we can point that out, you may be able to bypass those events and get right to it, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first heard about resentment, and I would wake up in the morning and swear I'm not going to get a resentment. And in like 10 minutes, a resentment would occur. I'm talking sort of about that aberration, right? When I learn about the problem reacts. And now it's going to change the problem as the problem. That's a big problem. Yeah. Yeah. So I fell down those stairs a lot of times. So I feel like I've learned something. Yeah.
Tom has his hand up.
Come on, Tom. How are you?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes. The other day I was listening to a course teacher, and he had some kind of he was preaching like he says, hate sees only hate. That kind of wording. And that made me think of what you say, self can get out of self. And I thought, is it that perhaps self sees only self?
Yes,
That
for
it
sure.
doesn't see us exactly. And that's why it can't communicate. Actually, it can't hear us. It's only talking. It's only repeating something, a message. We can hear it. Perhaps we can listen to it. But self sees only self. It doesn't see us. Is that true?
I agree with that. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a big habit in it. Yeah. Yes.
Because it was difficult for me to really understand exactly what's meant by self can't get out of self. It was hard to get my thought to wrap my thoughts around
It
because
is in a way. See, because there's an identification as self, yeah, that's not noticed. And then you not noticing the identification of as self tries to get out of self. Yeah. So the trying to get out of self doesn't change the identification as self because you are thinking that there's something you're in, let's call it self, and then you're thinking from something that wants to be out of it, and you say that's you, but that's also self. So then self tries to get out of self, and it can't get out of self. Yeah, because it's in the in and the out, the self. Yeah. So what you're trying to get out of, you're trying to get out of it as that which you're trying to get out of. Yeah. It's a little tricky thing, but it hits you after a while. So that neuters this whole weird call to arms that gets you more embroiled in the selfing. Yeah. You realize a lot of my movements were just that. I was trying to get out of self as self. And when when that's shown to me, it doesn't call me to arms. I don't try to change it or do anything. It's very disarming. I just see the futility of working in that equation. It's yeah, it just all it does, negative or positive, multiply, divide, it's all self getting into or out of self. So it brought a like a PAUSE. Yeah, the knowledge of self paused my wanting to get out, get up, get bigger, blah, blah, blah. I realized it's been all neutered or neutralized. My movements of trying to get out are actually a bigger form of being in. So yeah, that's how I feel self can't get out of self. But I do believe you can't talk to it. No, no. It's the talker. Yes. It's the talker all day. And it's talking like some people I know are talking to themselves now a lot out loud. Yeah. And they're walking around and they're having a conversation. Yeah. Yeah. But that's like self talking to itself. Yeah. Now, our role seemingly is we're the listening of it or the hearing of it. And there's huge difference between hearing it and listening to it. Listening to it the hugeness of us shrinks into a, yeah, we get sort of funneled into this little idea of being a thing. When you're listening to it, you're holding your larger space, yes? And then you're listening to the story of being a little thing, but not as a little thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I feel self can't get out of self is an incredible statement. Yeah, incredible, literally. If you can look into it, because it explains why trying to get out of a lot of stuff seems to fail. Yeah, and see, it's like the dog. The dog I have has a certain defined understanding. Yes? It tries hard. You can watch when it moves its ears, and it runs into a definition. It can't understand so much. Yes? This is the situation. Self, as the other aspect of self, thinks self can change. Yeah, but self can't change. It can change a little, but it can't change a lot. It's defined. Yeah. And in recovery, they've talked about some of its definitions. And one of them is when confronted with its inability to manage, it will just greet that evidence as, well, if I'll just try to manage better. That's it. See? So self cannot get that it can't get out of self. The self believes, programmed, it can get out of self. That's what it's trying all fucking day. Yeah. Now, you can sit and tell it till you're blue in the face. Self can't get out of self. It cannot grok that. It can't grok that understanding. Yeah. Its understanding is it's Paul and then there's self. So it's already out of self. Yeah. Yeah. So, there's a lot of shit that can be revealed in a short bit of time. Yeah, just borrow these glasses. They're all public sourced. These aren't anyone's glasses. We're passing these glasses around, and hopefully you'll see things anew a little bit. Yeah. And really the biggest point to me is to see in recovery and from alcoholism is see that which has defeated us is not us. Yeah. That I think is a fundamental necessity to start getting clearer about. I do. Because I've been in our community for 37 years and yeah, there's a lot of worshiping of old resentments. There's a lot of worshiping of a lot of stuff. And yeah, yeah. You know, there's a famous story. I won't go into it. If you want to read it, Freedom from Bondage, I think it's in the new edition. It's a woman's story, and it was one of the big eye openers for me. That's where they got the thing of praying for someone to have what you want, and even more of it, even though you don't mean it. Yeah, and that came from her. And the beginning is she believes she came in and she had a story that she had a resentment about a mother that she would do anything to get rid of. And then when she got sober, she realized something in her was thriving on this resentment. It was getting a life out of that resentment. It was sucking a lot of shit out of it. And she realized that her type was if she let this resentment, have harbor in her and keep feeding off of her, it was going to lead to drink, and drink would be to die for her. So that's where she discovered that thing about the resentment. And but what made me curious was she had a story that she would do anything to be free from it, but actually her condition was exactly the opposite. The head was feeding off of that resentment for excuses and rationales and reasons for explaining why shit wasn't going her way now. Yeah? It was such a perfect example of what I see as the parasitical use of resentment in people's lives, a refeeling of something that just sucks your present tense aliveness out of you. Yeah. Yes. So, and you can have a story that you would do anything to get rid of it, but it's completely the contrary for that which has taken you over. It's sucking it dry. It doesn't want to lose that resentment. No fucking way. These things are profound in my feeling. These things were super profound when my eyes were open concerning this stuff. It just blew my mind. I had no idea all this underlying shit was what was causing the surface conditions. None. I thought, oh, there was only the surface conditions and maybe how I felt about them. I had no idea that what you see is so here is what you're seeing to be so deeper. Yes? Yeah. And if you want real change, stop changing the seats on the deck of the Titanic, look underneath and get down to the exact nature of the wrong and the causes and the conditions. And that is what recovery is. We recovery from the underlying causes and conditions by recognizing the exact nature of the wrong, which is it's foreign to us. So yeah, thanks, Tom. Yes. All right. Anyone else?
I
We're going
don't
to
see
be
any
here again
other
at 4:30 today, Pacific time. Mm, yeah. All right, Martin, thank you so much. Kathy, thank you. That's a very nice, I like that definition of the reliance, yeah? On something else, yeah. Kerry, always a pleasure. Feeling better? You look better, yeah. Dave W. It could be the distance of the lens. I don't know. Dave W. Nice to see you, man. Axel, as always. Kathleen, sitting in Pennsylvania, not Delaware. Maggie, gonna take a nice, she's sitting, relaxing. She soaked it all up. Catherine, nice to see you. Chris, Axel, we got Axel. Olivia, yes, Olivia. Moved by the thoughts or through the thoughts. Yeah, there you go. Rico, Cruz, awesome. Joseph, my man in France. Nice to see you, Joseph. Mel B, nice to see you, Mel. Matthew, he's going on over 2 years of sobriety. Hallelujah. Miss Folkman, yes. Annette, thank you, Annette, for donating some and just you're just living outside now. That's cool. Yeah. This is a good time to be living outside. Early summer and back east. Robbie Ray, yeah. You know, whatever we learn, this is my attitude. Whatever we learn about anything, just turn it over to the power and let it put it to use. Yeah. Yeah. Teresa, nice to see you. Jess L, nice to see you, Jess. John in Florida, as always. Gigi, SF, they, she, he, yeah. Nice to see you. Yeah. Oliver, our man in Berlin. He's got a little yeah. I don't know what else. Yeah, I'll see some of you, I hope, in a couple hours. Um the idea, we're not in the idea of being right about anything. We're in the idea of relief, literally. Yeah. A relief that's not produced or determined by you. A relief that's readily available. Yeah. Yeah. Making you not the primary, but the secondary in a way. And then, as we were saying, you're listening, you're observing, you're witnessing. You're not what is presenting its story of life to you. You're not it. You're listening to it. It's something else. Yeah. And there's other ways of gathering or having a life or recognition. It's not always by thought and memory. Yeah. You can be told in other ways about what's going on that may be much more suitable for you. Yeah. This is just opening up the door. See what comes in. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you. We got GGSF. Come on, just jump in for a second.
Quick question. You're going to be back on the same Zoom link in a few hours? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. 4:30 Pacific time. Yes. Same Zoom. It's
Awesome.
always,
Thank you. I'll look
yeah,
for you.
come in if you like. Yeah. All right. Thank you. See you guys.
Much appreciated.
Thanks, Paul.